The game starts with Lee Everett as the main character, who was charged with murder and was heading to prison in the opening of the game. But the van's driver fucked up and met with an accident which deeply injured his leg. He then later was attacked by the driver, which had already turned into a zombie, which are called walkers in the game. Luckily he managed to deal with that, but unfortunately an entire horde of walkers was heading right towards him. He quickly ran towards the nearest house, which was about to change his life forever, because it was Clementine's house. Clementine's parents went to Savannah before the starting of the apocalypse. They left Clem with a babysitter who was killed by Lee because she had already turned. Through the voicemail, Lee found out that Clem's parents are never gonna return and that Clem is his responsibility now. They decided to leave the house immediately and eventually came across Sean, who agreed to take both Lee and Clem to Herschel's farm, where Lee acquainted with Kenny, his wife Katja, and his son Duck. But an unfortunate turn of events occurred and the walkers attacked the farm. Herschel's son Sean died in the attack, which made Herschel furious as hell, and he kicked out the entire group on the spot. The group then decided to leave and roamed for a while, but unfortunately they managed to attract some walkers. It was when they got really lucky and got saved by Glenn and Carly. Carly and Glenn made them take shelter in a pharmaceutical store, and coincidentally, the store was owned by Lee's family, who either turned or died. Inside the drugstore, they met Lily and her crazy dad, Larry, who weren't seemed to welcome the group. Larry even claimed that Duck was bitten, which wasn't truly the case. While all of them were quarreling, the walkers found a way to barge into the store, but Lee and Carly handled the situation. But soon after that, Larry had a heart attack and collapsed. Lily requested Lee to find the nitroglycerin pills for Larry and he agreed to help her. While Lee was searching the store for the keys to the medical counter, Carly decided to confront him in private and told him that she knew that Lee was a convicted killer, but she assured him by telling him that she was gonna keep this between her and Lee. Later, with the help of Doug, Lee manages to find the keys which his brother had on him, who had already been turned. Lee decided to put him out of his misery by executing him. After getting the keys, Lee and Lily rushed towards the medicinal counter and grabbed the pills for Larry. But it wasn't the time for celebration because the walkers attacked the store again. Kenny ran for preparing the truck to get out from there, while the rest decided to stay and defend. In the midst of all that, Doug got killed by the walkers. As soon as Kenny's truck was ready, everybody escaped from the store and decided to take shelter at a local motor inn. At the motor inn, Glenn told Lee that he was leaving the group because he had friends and family outside the city who need him. While everyone was trying to catch their breaths, Larry warned Lee that he knew about him being a killer and also told him to keep Clementine safe and to stay away from Lily. Later on, Mark, an ex-Air Force officer, joined their group. One day him and Lee were going into the woods for hunting because the entire group was lacking on food and the supplies. Along their way, they found two high school kids, Ben and Travis, and their professor whose leg was stuck in a bear trap. Lee tried his best to remove it but failed in doing so, hence chopping off his leg was the only option to free him from the trap. But soon enough, the place got surrounded by walkers and Travis got killed in the midst of all that. And Lee, Kenny, Mark and Ben rushed towards the motor inn with the teacher. When they got back at the inn, Lily told them that they can't have more mouths to feed when they themselves are starving. Kenny opposed her by calling her a heartless dictator. This argument continued for a while. Soon enough, they agreed to take Ben and his teacher. While Katja was trying to treat the teacher, he suddenly turned and strangled her. Lee jumped in to save her, followed by Mark and Kenny. After dealing with that, Kenny and Lily started to fight again. Ben interrupted by revealing the fact that the bite doesn't cause one to turn into walkers. Even non-bitten people will return as walkers after their death. The entire group fell into a state of shock after hearing about this fact. While all of them were lost in deep thought, two visitors by the name of Danny and Andrew came from a dairy nearby which was called St. John Dairy. They came to ask for gas and offered food supplies and shelter in return. The group agreed to cooperate with them after a lot of discussions and negotiations. Lee, Ben, Mark, and Carly decided to scout the place first to make sure that it's safe for the others. The place was protected by an electric fence, so the St. John brothers guaranteed their safety. At the dairy, the group met with Danny and Andy's mother, Brenda St. John, who welcomed them wholeheartedly and agreed to help Lee and his group, after finding out that they have got a vet with them. After this, Ben and Carly left the dairy in order to get the others, and Andy asked Mark and Lee to get rid of the walkers which were stuck in the electric fence. While they were clearing the fence power suddenly got turned on and Lee and Mark quickly backed off from it. It was then when they got ambushed by the bandits, which resulted in Mark getting injured. Lee somehow managed to use a tractor as a cover and escaped from there along with Mark. When they got back, their group was there too, which was shocked after seeing Mark like that. Lee furiously confronted Danny about all of that. Danny explained that they made a deal with the bandits. They give them supplies and in return, the bandits don't bother them. But Danny got angry and told Lee that it was unacceptable to try and kill his guests. Hence, Lee and Danny decided to give them a payback by attacking one of their camps. When they got there, they found out that there was no one in the camp. As they were searching that place, Lee found Clementine's hat, which was lost earlier. Lee was shocked when suddenly a strange woman showed up and threatened to kill both of them. Lee and Danny couldn't make sense of anything which she was saying until she started to accuse Danny for ruining her life. Danny became uneasy and encouraged Lee to shoot her. Now here, either you can shoot her, or if you don't want to, then Danny will do it, which will make player highly suspicious of Danny and the St. Johns. As soon as both of them returned back, Lee decided to check on Clementine. Brenda told him that she is in the barn with Andy and Kenny's family. In the barn, Kenny told Lee about a mysterious back door which was present in the barn. It surprisingly had a lot of locks on it, which Kenny found to be very strange and suspicious, but he became even more curious when Andy told him to stay away from it. Lee decided to mess with the generator in order to distract Andy. Then with the help of a multi-tool, he opened the door and froze in his boots after seeing what was inside there. There was a literal slaughterhouse there. Andy caught him red-handed and told him that it was only for obtaining animal meat. But Lee refused to believe him and decided to check out what was happening in the house. So he went for the dinner which Brenda prepared for the entire group. Lee made a false excuse of washing hands and started to snoop around the entire house. He found a bookshelf upstairs behind which noises and groaning of a man could be heard. Lee quickly started to investigate it, and as soon as he discovered a secret room behind the bookshelf, he fell into a state of shock because he saw Mark lying half dead there, who was crying for help. Lee rushed downstairs ASAP and told everyone to stop eating the food. The group was astonished and asked him that what was the problem. Lee revealed that Brenda and her sons were cannibals and that he saw Mark upstairs in a terrible state. Katja believed Lee and immediately told Kenny and Duck to stop eating. They took Katja and Clementine hostage and knocked out the whole group and locked them into a meat locker. While they were trying to figure out how to get out from there, Larry had a heart attack and collapsed on the spot. Lily immediately started to give him CPR and asked Lee and Kenny to help her out. While at the other hand, Kenny insisted that they should kill Larry, otherwise he will turn and will kill each and every one of them. Lily clung to Larry's body in order to protect him, but Lee subdued her and Kenny smashed his head with a crate. Lily fell into a state of grief and developed a strong hatred for Lee and Kenny. Lee and Kenny found that they can get out through the AC duct if they manage to remove the AC, but in order to do that, they'd first have to remove the screws. So Lee somehow managed to get some coins from Larry's corpse and was able to loosen the screws. But the duct was too small, hence they sent Clementine through there. Clem opened the door and helped everyone to escape from there. Kenny and Lee decided to go ahead first. They found out that Danny was patrolling the barn, so they decided to launch a surprise attack against him. But Danny outsmarted by detecting them first. Luckily, both of them were able to counter him and succeeded in neutralizing him. Lee told Kenny to go ahead and decided to deal with Danny by himself. Now it's up to the player to either kill Danny or spare him. After taking care of Danny, Lee went ahead and found Carly and Ben. Lee told her to deal with any surprises and went towards the house to look for the others. He heard Katja scream and quickly went in the house and found out that she was being held hostage by Brenda. Lee tried to lure her into conversing until she got killed by Mark, who was already turned into a walker. After rescuing Katja, Lee got out from the house and saw that Duck was being held hostage by Andy, but Carly saved him by shooting Andy and Lee quickly jumped on him. A brutal fight broke out between Andy and Lee. It turned out that Lee was a better brawler than Andy, hence he succeeded in pulverizing Andy, but Andy got up and demanded a fair fight from Lee. Now it's up to the player to either let Lee kill him or to leave Andy for the walkers. The group's condition only gets worse from here. When they were on their way ahead, they found an SUV which was full of supplies like food, water, medicines, etc. Now it's up to the player whether to take stuff from it or not. Honestly, it doesn't really matter because the outcome is gonna be the same. Okay, so after taking supplies from the mysterious SUV, the group decided to take shelter at a nearby motel. The next day, Kenny and Lee decided to go back to the drugstore for taking the remaining supplies which were present there. They got attacked by the walkers while they were collecting supplies, but luckily they managed to return safely to the motel. When they got back, Lily inquired about the supplies. They answered that they couldn't get much stuff because of the walkers. Since Lily was already holding a grudge against Lee and Kenny because they killed her father, she got pissed at them for not bringing much supplies. Soon the argument went from supplies to a debate about whether to stay at the motel or to leave the place as soon as possible. The fight somehow was diffused and Kenny and Lee decided to leave Lily alone for a while. After some time, Lee talked with Carly and shared about his feelings which he had for her. Carly accepted them and advised Lee to tell everyone about his past, because not only that will help him in making his heart lighter, but it will also get him acceptance from the group. Lee listened to her advice and told everyone about his past. Luckily, everybody accepted him and agreed to trust him. After a while, Lily called Lee in her room privately and told him that she suspected that there was a traitor among them who was selling their supplies to the bandits. She further clarified her claim by showing Lee a broken emergency flashlight. Lee immediately started to investigate about it by asking about the flashlight to the entire group. All the members said that they don't know anything about the flashlight. While Lee was investigating, he came across some broken glass which belonged to the flashlight along with a big X mark which was made on the wall near which he found the pieces of glass. He also noticed that it was made with pink chalk. So he went to Clementine and asked her if he had some pink chalk. Clem replied that her pink chalk had been gone missing, which made Lee even more curious. When Lee thought that he had hit a wall, Doug told him that he found a piece of pink chalk in front of the motel's entrance. Lee thanked him and started to investigate the outskirts of the motel. On investigating, he found that there were supplies hidden there, which shocked him. He quickly rushed in Lily's room and told her about the hidden supplies. Lily said to him that they should line up everyone and should have a proper inquiry about this. As they were figuring out their next step, the local bandits attacked the motel and took everyone outside hostage. The bandits said that they made a deal with the group, but the group didn't fulfill it. Lee came out from the room and started to distract the bandits by luring them into talking, while Lily took her position and started shooting at them. A gunfight began at the motel between the bandits and the group. The gunshots ended up attracting walkers, which became a huge problem for both sides. In the midst of all this, Katja and Doug got strangled by a walker, but Lee succeeded in saving them, while Kenny prepared the RV for escaping from the motel. Dusk came in as the group continued to travel in the RV. Lily still insisted about identifying the traitor, in response to which Carly told her to let it go. Then suddenly Lily got more suspicious of Ben and Carly. She started to claim that either Ben or Carly had been giving the group's supplies to the bandits. Ben got scared and insisted that he didn't do it, while Carly defended him. As this drama was going on, a walker got stuck in the RV's front wheels, hence Kenny had to stop the RV. Lily decided to use this time for having a little chat with Carly and Ben. The fight became even worse. Lily continued to accuse both Carly and Ben. Ben yelled that he'd do anything in order to prove that he's innocent. Shortly after that, Kenny finished dealing with that Walker, while Carly called Lily a bitch and called her a scared little girl. Then Lily drew her gun and shot Carly dead. Everyone froze in their boots after witnessing this incident. Lee immediately strangled her and decided that they won't take Lily with them anymore. Hence, they left her in the middle of the road and proceeded further. The entire group was in a state of despair after that tragedy. Meanwhile, Katja and Kenny called Lee in private and revealed to him that their kid, Duck, was bitten. Apparently, he got bit when one of the walkers strangled him and Katja back at the motel. Lee got shocked after hearing this. Kenny said that they are going to look after Duck as they will continue their journey. He also said that Duck may not turn if they take enough care of him. Lee agreed and went back to Clementine. After a while later, at dawn, they had to stop because there was an abandoned train in their path. The group decided to stop there because there was no way around that train. Lee and Ben decided to check out the train. They found a map in one of the compartments. The map had information on all the routes which the train was supposed to take, and luckily its final destination was Savannah, where Kenny could get a boat and also where Clementine's parents could be found. After taking the map, Ben, Kenny and Lee decided to check out the engine compartment to see if the train was still working or not. It turned out that it was still working, but they didn't know how to start the engine. So Lee found a notepad in which the instructions to start the train's engine could be present. But the page which contained those instructions had been torn off. Only markings which weren't visible to the naked eye were present. So Lee borrowed a pencil from Clementine and shaded on that page, after which the instructions were clearly visible. They succeeded in starting the train, but the train was attached to a compartment which was already wrecked. Lee succeeded in freeing the train with the help of some tools which were present in the engine compartment. While Lee was on his way to gather everyone up for boarding the train, he met with Charles, who was also known as Chuck. Chuck told Lee that he had already been acquainted with the rest of his group, except him, and he even joked about how they were stealing his home from him. Lee found him a little bit annoying, but he agreed to have him as one of them. Meanwhile, Duck's condition was getting worse. Lee questioned Kenny that if the boat and the train are really good ideas, considering Duck's condition, but Kenny refused and insisted on sticking with the plan. Hence, the group boarded the train and left for Savannah. Duck's condition kept worsening in the midst of their journey. Katja requested Lee to ask Kenny to stop train, but Kenny, with everything going on, was not in a very good mood. So it was hard for Lee to get him to stop the train. Both of his parents accepted the bitter truth that Duck won't make it. So they started to debate that who will put him down. Katja insisted that she should do it, so she went in the woods to do it. Soon after, they heard a gunshot and both Lee and Kenny rushed towards the woods where Katja went. They found that Katja had shot herself and Duck was still alive, barely breathing. After witnessing this traumatizing incident, Kenny was hopeless and fell into an existential void. Hence, Lee chose to put an end to Duck's misery. The group soon got aware about this incident and the cloud of hopelessness emerged above them. Lee decided to have a word with Clementine regarding this. Clem told him that Chuck said to her that she is going to end up dead. Lee furiously decided to confront Chuck about this. Chuck told him that Clementine should learn to protect herself and should also trim her hair so that she won't be grabbed by anyone easily. Lee agreed with this and immediately taught her to shoot a gun and also trimmed her hair. After this, Clementine requested Lee if he could help her in finding her parents after they have reached Savannah. Lee agreed and asked her if she had any idea about that where her parents might be. Clem replied that they frequently visited Savannah a lot of times in past and they had always stayed at the hotel by the name of the Marsh House. Hence, Lee and Clementine decided to go to the Marsh House after reaching Savannah. A few moments later, Kenny had to stop the train because a truck equipped with an oil tank was hanging straight down from a bridge, with its upper half being stuck on the bridge. While the group left the train to see what could be done to get past the oil tank. Two strangers by the name of Omid and Krista called out the group to make sure if they were dangerous or not. Lee decided to have a word with them so that they could come to an agreement about cooperating for getting rid of the oil tank. Omid and Krista agreed and the work to remove the tanker from train's way began. Lee and Clementine succeeded in obtaining a blowtorch from the nearby train station. While Omid and Lee were working on clearing the path, a huge horde of walkers was coming directly towards them. Krista told everyone to quickly get inside the train and Omid succeeded in getting rid of the tanker. The tanker got leaked, so Lee decided to start a fire in order to keep the walkers away for a bit. And soon enough, Lee, Krista and Omid succeeded in boarding the train, but Omid gravely injured his leg in the process. After a while, Clementine's walkie-talkie, which was with Lee for the moment and which was also believed to be broken, suddenly turned on with a stranger on the line, who claimed to have her parents with him and who surprisingly knew about almost everything about the group. Lee and Kenny got shocked after hearing that and decided to not give walkie-talkie in Clementine's hands for a while. The group arrived at Savannah after traveling for a while. The streets were really calm and quiet, which was way beyond unusual. Nobody lived in those houses anymore. Meanwhile, Clem requested Lee to let her at least hold the walkie-talkie, but Lee politely refused. As our group was figuring out the correct path, the church bell suddenly rang, which was very strange because the whole place was abandoned. Then Lee suddenly noticed a strange figure above the bell tower. Before Lee could explain himself to the group, the stranger on the walkie-talkie contacted them again and reminded them that being in streets was a bad idea. Lee and the group didn't had a moment to make sense of everything. Walkers started to surround them due to the bell's noise. The group tried to get out of there while being clueless about where to escape. They got separated from Chuck during the chaos. Chuck told them that he would catch up with them later and a group ended up at an abandoned mansion which seemed sturdy to them, but all of its doors and windows were barricaded except for the pet door, which was locked too. It was an automatic door which would only open if the pet with its collar came near it. Lee found out that there was a doghouse which had a small grave near it, so he decided to dug it up in order to obtain the collar. After getting the collar and with the help of Clem, the group succeeded in entering the mansion. Krista was angry at Lee because he didn't told her that the walkie-talkie still worked. Lee said that he too found about it yesterday only. Meanwhile, Omid's condition got worse, so Krista insisted on not leaving until he gets better. But Kenny said that they should leave as quick as possible, or else the walkers will fill the whole city. Lee and Krista somehow convinced Kenny to stay and rest at the mansion for a while. After searching the whole place up, Lee found out that Kenny found a child up in the attic who seemed to have died due to starvation and came back as a really weak walker. Kenny got really upset after seeing him because he looked a lot like his son Tuck. Hence, they decided to end his suffering and buried him with his pet dog in the yard. As soon as Lee finished with it, a mysterious figure appeared in front of him again. He called him out, but the figure ran away. The group rushed to the yard to see what was wrong. Lee told him that someone was following them all this time, so Kenny decided to ready the boat and to leave the place as soon as possible. Hence, both Lee and Kenny started to head for the docks in order to see if any boat was working or not. After reaching there, Lee found a gruesome wall which was made from dead and alive walkers. But he chose to ignore it and decided to use one of the binoculars to scout ahead. He found a strange person who was climbing and jumping from one building to another with the help of a strange tool. Lee quickly called Kenny and told him about this strange person. But soon enough, that stranger jumped down right in front of them and started to loot the nearby shop. Lee and Kenny made a plan about taking the stranger down quietly, but they failed because the stranger was quite skilled in fighting and they knocked Lee down, but they decided to not fight anymore because Clementine showed up from behind. The stranger removed her mask and said to them that they are not from Crawford. Lee asked her that what is Crawford, Molly answered that Crawford is a place which solely believes in survival of the fittest. They don't allow anyone with any kind of disability, old and weak people including children, to live because those people will only slow them down. Lee then asked her that who was ringing the bells all over the place. Molly replied that it was her. Kenny got furious after hearing this. He said that their group was on the verge of death because of the walkers which got attracted by those bells. Molly argued that it was the only way for her to be safe from the walkers. While Kenny and Molly were arguing, a horde of walkers suddenly appeared from around the corner. Molly was about to leave them behind, but she agreed to help after seeing Clementine's sad face. She decided to help everyone out, but it was too late for Lee. So she lended him her climbing tool and Lee opened the manhole with the help of it and escaped into the sewers. While Lee was trying to find a way out, he came across Chuck's dead body and paid his respects to him. Upon proceeding further, he found a secret passage in the sewers which led to a fallout shelter. The shelter contained a lot of supplies. Lee was surprised to see a place like that. He came across a small group of people who didn't trusted him first in the slightest. They suspected that Lee was from Crawford. Lee managed to assure them that he was trying to survive just like them and that he was not from Crawford. The man whose name was Vernon lowered his gun and decided to trust Lee. Vernon told Lee that he's a doctor of a cancer survivor group and Crawford took all of their medical supplies which were needed to take care of the patients. Lee responded that his group too has got an injured person and that he has a little girl too to look after too. Vernon agreed to go with Lee despite being told not to by his friend Bree. After reaching the mansion, Vernon started to treat Omid accompanied by Krista, while Lee found out that Clementine was nowhere to be found. After searching the whole house, he went in the yard and found out that Clem was in the shed which had a boat in it. Lee and Kenny suddenly cheered up because they were told by Molly that there were no working boats in the whole savannah. But Kenny found out that the boat can work only if it had fuel and batteries, while Vernon also revealed that Omid won't survive if they don't give him any antibiotics. So the group decided to prepare for an operation to sneak into Crawford and to steal the required supplies from there. Clem decided to accompany Lee in this heist too. After reaching Crawford, the group found out that everyone in the Crawford had turned into walkers, which actually made their operation easy because it's easier to deal with dumb walkers than smart guards. The group made a classroom of an abandoned school there, Rendezvous Point. Lee and Molly decided to head for the battery and Krista and Vernon decided to head for the medicines, while Clementine and Ben decided to stay in the classroom to work on making the escape route accessible. After obtaining the battery from the auto shop, Molly took off to run an errand with the battery. She promised Lee that she will be back and Lee proceeded further on. He found out that Krista and Vernon were trapped inside the infirmary by a group of walkers. Lee cleared them out and went inside the infirmary. He found out that the medical supplies were inside a safe whose 4-digit code was unknown to them. Lee found some tapes on searching the whole place which showed them that what kind of a hell Crawford actually was, but they managed to obtain the 4-digit code and succeeded in getting the medicine. Molly too shortly returned with the battery, but because of Ben's carelessness, the walkers barged into the school and were all over the place. The group got cornered into the classroom. Meanwhile, Ben decided to tell Kenny in this chaotic situation that it was him who was giving bandits the supplies, and that Katja and Duck were dead because of him. Kenny became furious and was ready to kill Ben on the spot. He decided that Ben won't come on the boat with him. Bree got distracted while this was happening and hence got killed by the walkers. Since Bree was dead, the entrance was unguarded, but the door was open and they decided to escape via the top floor of the school. They had to fight a lot of walkers on their way up. From there, they succeeded in escaping safely to the mansion. At the mansion, Vernon decided to have a word with Lee. Vernon told him that Clementine and the whole group is unsafe with Lee as their leader. He gave Lee an offer that he can take care of Clem instead of Lee. His place and his people are well equipped with supplies and some of them have got a decent experience about taking care of children. But Lee, without a second thought, turned down his offer. After dealing with him Lee came across Molly, who was about to leave the group. Lee bid her farewell and went ahead to talk with Clem. Clem asked Lee if her parents were still alive or not. Lee answered that he was not sure, which made Clem even more sadder. She went to sleep as she sobbed, and in the same room, Lee took a nap on a couch. After waking up, he found out that Clem had disappeared again. He went out of the mansion as he continued to search for her. There he noticed some disturbances in the nearby area. He found out that it was a walker, so he dealt with it. But the walker bit him and he got infected. The rest of the group rushed towards Lee. Lee revealed the bite to them, but instead of panicking, the group decided that they will help him in finding Clem, and that they got Lee's back. Lee felt a bit relieved after hearing this. He suspected Vernon to be the culprit because he talked about taking Clem from Lee. Hence, the group decided to go to his place and take Clem from him. Lee's condition kept getting worse, but they somehow managed to get there. After reaching there, they found out that the place was picked clean. Then suddenly, the same stranger who had abducted Clem contacted Lee and told him that he didn't kidnap her, in fact, he rescued her. Before Lee could ask anything, the stranger got disconnected. Lee fainted due to the fever from the bite. Krista and Kenny decided to amputate his arm in order to slow down the infection. Lee agreed to it because he thought that it may buy him some time. Lee fainted again after the amputation due to blood loss, but he regained consciousness after a while. But the place was already surrounded by the walkers, so they had to act fast. Through the elevator shaft, they succeeded in making to the top, but the streets were full of walkers. But luckily the bell tower was nearby, hence they succeeded in clearing the path and managed to fall back to the mansion safely. They found that their boat was gone. It was later found out that Vernon and his group stole it, which really pissed Kenny. But since their primary goal was to rescue Clem, he let it go. The mansion got surrounded by walkers, and soon enough the group had to hide in the attic. Just when they thought that there was no getting out from there, it was found out that one of the attic walls was weak and breakable, and so the group started to barge through it by taking turns. It led them to a house which was just besides the mansion. One by one they started to jump to the other roof, but Ben fell into an alley on his back and a pole pierced right through his back. Kenny immediately jumped down to save him, followed by Lee. But it was impossible to save him because the pole had gone really deep in his body, plus the walkers were already starting to surround them. Kenny forced Lee to get out from there and decided to take them all on his own. Lee assumed that he was dead. Hence he requested Krista and Omid to look after Clementine. As they were getting more closer to the marsh house, they found out that the streets were full of walkers. So Lee decided to head down first and promised Omid and Krista that he will meet them outside Savannah with Clem. He pushed his way through the horde of walkers and managed to reach the hotel. The strange man who took Clem was there too. He told Lee to get rid of his weapons and decided to have a word with him. He revealed that the SUV from which Lee's group took supplies from was his, and that his wife and his daughter left him, and when he found them, they were already dead. He blamed Lee for that and told him that he didn't took proper care of Clementine and that he is going to adopt Clem after he had taken his revenge from Lee. Clem sneaked up on him from behind and performed an attack on him which staggered him. Hence Lee got a chance to land a blow on him and he succeeded in killing him. After dealing with him, Lee found out that the walkers won't attack a person if they are covered in walker blood. So he covered Clem in it and immediately left with Clem in order to get out from Savannah. On their way, Clem saw her parents which were already turned into walkers. While this was happening, Lee collapsed there because the infection from the bite was getting worse and worse. But luckily Clem managed to fall back to a nearest shelter. Lee realized that it was his time, so he told Clementine to find Omid and Krista and to keep her hair short. And Clem made sure that Lee don't turn by shooting him. But this was only the beginning of Clementine's journey. An year later, after Lee's demise, Clementine, Omid and Krista were together for a while. One day, three of them were heading towards an abandoned gas station as they continued to discuss their newborn's name. The place was safe, hence, they decided to get cleaned up. While Clementine was tidying herself up, her water bottle fell and went into one of the toilets. As soon as she got it, a strange woman entered the washroom and threatened Clementine to hand over everything she had. Clem insisted that she didn't had anything, but the stranger forcefully started to meddle with her bag. While this confrontation was happening, Omid showed up and tried to sneak up on the strange woman. But the woman sensed him and turned around and accidentally shot Omid right in the chest, which resulted in his death. Krista rushed in there and killed that woman without any second thought. Krista was heartbroken, and same was with Clem. 16 months later, Clementine and Krista were sitting around a campfire, trying to get warm in a stormy night. Krista told Clem that there is a place up in the north near Michigan called Wellington, which was believed to be a secured place from the walkers. But before heading there, they had to do something about their current situation, which was to light a fire in order to deal with the cold. Krista headed out in the forest to find some woods, and Clem started to poke around the campfire to see if there was anything she could do. Some time later, Clem heard some strange noises which were coming from the forest. She decided to investigate, and she found that Krista was being threatened by a group of bandits. In order to save Krista, Clem tried to distract them from her by luring them towards herself. But she got separated from her in the process and got chased by one of those bandits. The bandits chased her and made her go through even more deeper into the woods. One of them almost got her, but Clem managed to slip away and the bandit got killed by some walkers. Before Clem could decide to get out from there, she was already cornered by a group of walkers and she fell into a river while attempting to back away from the walkers. In the morning, Clem was marooned at the riverside. She was all by herself in an unknown area, but she knew that moving forward was the only choice. After walking for a while, Clem came across a dog whose owners were already dead. Clem checked his collar and learned his name, which was Sam. Sam got along with Clem pretty well and led her to his owner's camp. After looking around for a while, Clem found a can of beans in a garbage bin. Luckily, it was still edible, so she decided to eat and to also feed the dog. But since the dog was way too hungry, it jumped on Clem and bit her arm. Clem pushed it and the dog went flying away. After getting up, Clem found out that a sharp metallic object had pierced the dog's abdomen and it was crying and suffering in pain. Clem decided to put it out of its misery and she went ahead, starved and weak. Some walkers attacked her on the way, but she was too weak to defend herself. Luckily, two strangers by the name of Luke and Pete saved Clem from the walkers and carried her with them. Just when both of them were trying to learn about Clem, Luke noticed the dog bite on her arm and dropped her and thought that it was a walker bite. Clem insisted that it was a dog bite, but both of them found it hard to believe because it was hard to tell that if it was really a dog bite. Pete asked her to tell the truth by looking him straight in the eye. Clem bravely told him that it wasn't a walker bite. Hence, Pete decided to take her to their shelter and to have their group's doctor to take a look at her bite. Clem collapsed on the way since she hadn't ate anything for days. When she woke up, she found herself surrounded by a group of strangers who were with Luke and Pete. Their names were Nick, Alvin, and Rebecca. Rebecca and Nick were against the idea of bringing Clem at their place because they thought that she was bitten, but Luke and Pete insisted on giving her a chance. While all of this arguing was happening, the group's doctor Carlos came out from the house and decided to take a look at her bite. He said that Clem's bite could be anything. Hence, he decided to lock Clem in the shed to see if she was bitten by a walker or not. If she gets high fever by the morning, then it would be proven that it was a walker bite. Luke and Pete had to agree despite Clem's sad face, and they left her in the shed. Clem was already starving and also was in a lot of pain. She realized that her wound will get infected if she doesn't cleanse and stitches it. So she somehow managed to escape from the shed and decided to sneak into the house in order to find something for taking care of her wound. She succeeded in obtaining a needle from the bathroom, but Rebecca was heading right in there. Clem hid herself on the spot. On eavesdropping, she found out that Rebecca's baby wasn't her husband's, Alvin. After Rebecca left, Clem went in the room which was present right in front of the bathroom. That room belonged to Carlos's daughter, Sarah, who caught Clem red-handed. Clem requested her that she only needs something for cleaning and stitching her wound. Sarah was really friendly towards Clem and asked her if they could be best friends. Clem agreed and Sarah fetched thread and hydrogen peroxide for her. Clem rushed back to the shed after obtaining all the necessary stuff and started to take care of the wound. She experienced hellish pain in the process, but she succeeded in avoiding an infection. Just when she was trying to catch her breath, a walker attacked her, but since Clem was a survivor, she managed to deal with it. Suddenly, Luke and his group arrived on the scene and noticed the incident. And Nick got angry at her because Clem stole the supplies from their house. Pete defended Clem and said that anybody else in the situation would have done the same. Since it was proven that Clem's bite wasn't a walker bite, but was actually a dog bite, the group decided to take Clem in. After treating her wound, Carlos told Clem that his daughter Sarah has no idea that how bad the world is, and he requested Clem to not cross boundaries while talking with her. Clem agreed and Carlos left the room. Then Luke brought some food for her and talked with Clem in order to know her a bit. While they were talking, Nick came in and apologized to Clem for distrusting her. He said that they had to kill his mother because they took care of a bitten person, which later turned and bit Nick's mom. Clem understood and forgave him, but Rebecca still didn't seem to welcome Clem. The next day, Pete, Nick, and Clem went to the nearest lake for fishing. On reaching there, they found some corpses which had bullet holes in them. All three of them got surprised. Nick insisted on getting out from there, but Pete decided to stay and look around to see if there was any useful things present there. Clem found out that the man who was with the people which attacked Krista was helplessly lying there and was begging for water. But before Clem could ask him anything, the place got surrounded by walkers and unfortunately Pete got bit in the midst of all that. Pete and Clem got separated from Nick, so they decided to get out from there and they ended up making an abandoned van a temporary shelter. Pete thought about amputating his leg but dropped the idea because he would die due to blood loss. Clem told him to rest while she too decided to take a nap. Dusk came in and Pete's condition got worse and worse. He realized that his time has come, so he requested Clem to watch out and to look after Nick. Clem agreed and Pete helped her to run away from there by distracting the walkers. After reaching the house, Carlos and Rebecca asked her that where she'd been, and also told her that Luke and Alvin went out in order to look for her. Clem answered that Pete got bit and they got separated from Nick. Carlos and Rebecca got shocked and decided to go out in order to look for the rest of their people. Carlos requested Clem to look after Sarah. She agreed and decided to distract her until everyone comes back. Sarah and Clem took pictures of each other and goofed around with empty handgun in order to pass time. Then a strange figure appeared and was heading right for their house. Sarah assumed it to be Luke and went downstairs for opening the door, but it wasn't too late when she found out that it wasn't Luke. She got uneasy and started panicking. Hence, Clem decided to deal with the stranger and told Sarah to hide in her room. Clem opened the door and started to question him. The stranger told her that he was her neighbor and that him and his people have camped down by the stream. Clem tried to prevent him from coming in, but he came in anyway and started to snoop around the whole house. He told Clem that he was looking for his people, which seemed to have gone lost, and surprisingly, their description was the same as our group. Clem shrugged it off and told him that she doesn't have any idea about anything which he's saying. The stranger continued to poke around, but then suddenly a noise came from Sarah's room, which made him suspicious. Clem pretended that she didn't heard anything, but the stranger went in there anyway, with a gun in his hand. He found nothing in the room because Sarah was hiding underneath the bed. Unfortunately, stranger found Sarah's photo which Clem took earlier. He asked that whose photo was it. Clem somehow managed to be quiet about it, but the stranger figured it out anyway and told Clem that if people don't trust you, how can you trust them back? Before Clem could make sense of anything, he decided to leave and wished a good day for Clem. Few moments later, the group returned. Clem told them about that stranger. Carlos asked about the character sketch, and as soon as he heard the answer, he quietly realized that the stranger was none other than William Carver, who came in order to do scouting. Apparently, Carver was after them because they were all once members of his community, but they escaped because they didn't like Carver's way of doing things. Since Carver was certain about the group's whereabouts, they had no choice but to leave that home and to move on. The group immediately left and decided to head up north. On their way, they saw Pete, who was shot dead by someone. They found out that it was Carver's men who did that, but there was no time for grieving. After traveling for 5 days, they came across a giant bridge which had a ski lodge and a small cabin on its other side. Luke and Clem decided to go ahead first in order to make sure that there were no surprises ahead. They ran into some walkers, but they somehow managed to deal with them. As soon after that, a strange man came from the other side of the bridge. Luke asked Clem to make sure if he was dangerous or not. Luckily, the stranger was quite friendly and agreed to cooperate with them by offering some food, but Nick came in and shot him dead before Luke and Clem could tell him anything. Luke was furious at him and told him that the stranger wasn't dangerous, but in fact actually agreed to cooperate. Nick defended himself by saying that the stranger could be working with Carver, and also that he could have shot him. The entire group got aware about this and condemned Nick for this, but still Nick insisted on that stance. So the group decided to leave him alone. While Alvin and Clem were obtaining some food from the cabin, Clem found a survival knife which seemed to be a good weapon. So she kept it with herself, but walkers started to surround them. Hence, they decided to fall back to the ski lodge. Clem climbed on the watchtower and noticed some people in the woods. But before she could tell anything, the actual owners of the lodge arrived and an argument started between them and our group. Upon checking out, Clem froze in her boots after witnessing them because it was none other than Kenny, who himself was shocked after seeing Clem there. Kenny agreed to trust the group because they were with Clem. He introduced them to his friend Walter and his girlfriend Sarita and led them into the lodge, which was really cozy. But the group refused to leave their weapons because it was still hard for them to trust Kenny. But Clem vouched for them and everybody left their weapons and started to get a little comfortable. Kenny and Clem started to chat about the old days while remembering Lee. After that, Clem decided to check on others. Carlos decided that they should leave by tomorrow because Carver's men were really close to finding them, while Rebecca revealed to Clem that the baby was not Alvin's, and she said to Clem that Alvin will kill her if he found out. Clem somehow managed to console her, but Alvin came in, hence they had to drop the convo. After decorating the Christmas tree, dinner got served and everyone assembled in the dining hall. Clem chose to dine with Kenny and Sarita since she trusted Kenny. Kenny suggested that Clem should stay at the lodge only, but Clem replied that she cannot leave her friends. So Sarita suggested that they should stay too, but Kenny wasn't comfortable with that idea. Meanwhile, Luke and Nick joined them and asked Kenny that what were his plans. Kenny said that he was thinking about moving on towards Wellington. He said that it was near Michigan and the cold weather will slow down the walkers, but Nick seemed unable to make sense of that. Hence, a fight started between him and Kenny. Walter saw this and decided to take Clem away from all that. Outside the lodge, Walter mentioned his dear friend Matthew a lot of times, which made Clem suspicious because he still hadn't returned. Few moments later, Kenny joined them and started to discuss about that how to deal with the storm which was already near. But soon they saw a strange woman who was lingering outside the lodge. They caught her and started to ask questions. She said that her people are short on food and supplies, so she requested them to help her. Walter agreed to help her and went to the lodge for fetching food and other supplies. She introduced herself to Clem and said that her name was Bonnie. Walter gave her a box full of food and Bonnie thanked him and left. Kenny told Clem to go to bed, hence she left too. Inside the lodge, Luke revealed to Clem that Walter's friend Matthew was the man whom Nick shot and killed at the bridge. Clem got shocked, but Luke told her to prevent Walter from finding out about this. He also told her to get rid of that knife which she found in the cabin because it belonged to Matthew. Clem agreed and immediately went for the knife, but it was missing, which made her uneasy as hell. She found out that Walter had already found it and he already knew that Matthew was dead because he overheard Nick talking about it. Since he already knew, Clem realized that it was pointless to lie, so she told him the truth. Walter asked her that if Nick was a good guy or not. Clem answered that he is indeed a good guy. Soon enough, Nick himself came there to see what was going on. Clem told him to tell Walter the truth. Nick said that from a distance Matthew looked like anyone and he thought that he was about to hurt his friend, but he didn't want it to do it. Walter, despite being in a terrible state of mind, chose to forgive Nick. While this was happening, Kenny called everyone outside because the storm was closing in, which made the windmill spin really fast. So Kenny decided to turn it off because the noise from it was already attracting walkers. Luke and Kenny decided to check the transformer while Clem and others took care of the wind turbine. But the walkers were already on them and hence a fight broke out there. Everybody decided to fall back to the lodge as they continued to defend themselves. Clem succeeded in falling back with Alvin and Rebecca, but the walkers cornered the rest of the group. Then suddenly Carver and his people arrived on the scene with AK-47s. The woman whom they helped previously, Bonnie, was also with him too, which really shocked Clem and Walter. Carver's people took everyone hostage there, but since Clem, Alvin and Rebecca were already in the lodge, they managed to stay hidden. But Carver decided to torture Carlos in order to leave Rebecca out. While Rebecca suggested that they should wait for Luke and Kenny, but Carver was already about to kill Carlos. Hence, they had no choice but to come out. While Carver was giving his speech, Kenny shot one of his people from outside, and in return Carver killed Walter and warned Kenny to surrender, otherwise he would march another member of the group and will kill them. But Kenny fired another, so Carver marched Alvin and was about to kill him, but Clem rushed towards him and saved him. But Carver made her hostage instead of Alvin. Hence, Kenny had to surrender to Carver, and so Carver's people took them to their community. While they were on their way, Kenny said that he's not going to let Carver do whatever he wants. So he started to work on getting rid of the cuffs. The whole group was against this idea because they knew that how dangerous Carver was. But Kenny insisted and said that he's not trusting Luke on this one. In the midst of this argument, Kenny succeeded in getting rid of the cuffs and stood in front of the door in order to get ready for action. But due to the shock from brakes, he fell flat on the ground and his plan failed. Carver's community had tons of food and other supplies, which really surprised Clem. Meanwhile, Tavia, a guard, took Carlos away in order to treat some folks, and Troy escorted them to their place and told them to rest because they'd have to work really hard tomorrow. After Troy left, they met with Reggie, who helped them in escaping from the community a while ago. Reggie boasted that how Carver is working hard in order to develop this community, and that if Carver lets him in again, he will be able to help them in escaping again. But for that to happen, he'd have to stay out from any trouble. A few moments later, Rebecca started to feel uneasy, so they had to dismiss their meeting. Kenny asked Clem to look around the place to see if there's anything useful there, which may help them in escaping. Upon searching, she met with Mike and a strange woman, Jane. After a while, Troy came in and warned everyone to go to sleep or else he'd shoot them. Hence, they all went to bed. Soon after waking up, they had to listen to a speech by Carver. Sarah started to chat with Clem in midst of that, which made Carver really angry, and he ordered Carlos to slap her in order to discipline her. Carlos had to do it because there was no other choice. This was a devastating incident for both Carlos and his daughter. Soon everyone was ordered to go to their respective works. Clem was working with Bonnie while helping her loading the magazines. Bonnie told Clem that she felt really guilty of her actions and also defended Carver by saying that he's only doing all this in order to make this community prosper. Clem got a little pissed after hearing this, but was also relieved to find someone friendly. Bonnie gave her a hoodie for the cold, but Tavia came in and told Clem that she had to work in the greenhouse now with Reggie. Sarah was there too, who was still grieving about the morning's incident, but Clem somehow managed to confront her and they got ready for work. Reggie told them that they just have to pick berries with the help of the shears and have to put them in the basket, but Sarah was still having difficulty in this task. Hence, Clem decided to help her. After a while, Carver was heading in, which made Reggie fearful because Clem did her work because she was busy in helping Sarah. As soon as Carver came in, he started to blame Reggie after seeing Clem's empty basket. He told Clem and Sarah to wait outside. Some moments later, Carver came outside with Reggie and pushed him off the building, which resulted in Reggie's death. Clem and Sarah froze in their boots. Carver told Clem to go to work with Bonnie. Clem told Bonnie that Carver killed Reggie. Bonnie got shocked, but she told Clem to deliver the supplies to the armory for now. After reaching there, Clem saw that Mike and Kenny were fighting, but before any discussion could start, the fence broke and walkers were on them. 3 of them were somehow defending themselves, but Troy came in and saved them, though he was really mad about it. He told Clem to get out from there. On her way, Clem got grabbed by a stranger who dragged her in a bookstore. The stranger was none other than Luke, who somehow managed to sneak in. Luke told Clem that he needed a walkie-talkie in order to stay in touch with the group and to tell them everything about the guards' patrolling routes, and also told Clem to meet at this place again tomorrow. Clem had to go because Troy was expecting her. She made an excuse for her absence and Troy warned her to never wander around. He also told her that Carver wanted to speak with her, so Clem started to head towards his office. On her way, she saw Rebecca, who was sobbing as she continued to leave. Clem quickly went in and saw that Alvin was there, all beaten up and injured, which really shocked Clem. But there was no time for that because Carver wanted to talk with her. He told Clem that he actually liked Reggie, but apparently he was weak of will and character. He then started lecturing about that how him and Clem are alike in a lot of ways. But then one of his people radioed him and gave updates about the horde of walkers, which was expected to hit them. Hence he had to dismiss the convoy and told Clem to go in the yard because it was supper time. A meeting was going on in the yard about whether to trust Luke or whether to attract the walkers towards the camp in order to escape by using that chaos as an advantage. An argument started between Kenny and Rebecca regarding this, but Clem diffused it by saying that they could do both, but the problem was that they didn't knew how they would escape from the horde. But Jane, who was believed to be crazy, came in and said that walkers won't attack them if they cover themselves in walker guts. Clem vouched for this idea because she too had done that in the past, and hence it was decided that they are gonna work on both plans. First, they decided to get a walkie-talkie for Luke. Mike helped Clem by helping her to get on the roof, and from there, she entered the stockroom quietly and managed to obtain a walkie-talkie. After getting back, she showed it to Kenny and the others, and everyone went to bed ASAP for avoiding any suspicion. In the morning, somebody had to bring the talkie to Luke. Kenny decided that Clem should do it. Then suddenly Troy came in and started to order them around. Kenny somehow managed to hide the radio in her pockets and all 3 of them started to head for work. But Clem found out that she would have to work with Bonnie instead, which became a huge obstacle for them. But since Bonnie was trustworthy, Clem showed her the radio and told her that Luke is waiting for her. Bonnie let her go and warned Clem to not get her in trouble. Clem rushed towards the bookshop, but unfortunately Luke was nowhere to be found. Troy came in and forcefully took Clem out of there. He took her to Carver, who had already caught Luke and was demanding from the whole group to give the radio in his hands. Clem was about to show, but Kenny took the blame on himself. Carver beated him right on his eye and continued it for some moments, which resulted in Kenny getting fatally injured. Somehow Bonnie managed to stop him and he declared that there won't be supper for them. Bonnie decided that she's going to help them in escaping as soon as Carver left. The whole group was in a state of turmoil after the recent incident. Luke said that they should leave some other night instead of tonight, keeping the group's condition in mind. Rebecca and the others were completely against this. Meanwhile, Carlos told everyone that Kenny's orbital has been damaged really bad and that he will have to lose an eye. After hearing this, Luke said that if they are escaping now, then they may have to leave some people behind. Everyone was against this, but then Kenny got up, which made everyone hopeful. They decided to meet at Parker's Run after escaping, but for that to happen, they'd have to attract walkers towards the camp. So they sent Clem in Carver's office to turn on the speakers. Alvin was still there unconscious. Clem tried to wake him up, but she got no responses from him. But as soon as she turned on the speakers, Alvin got up. Clem told him to escape with her, but he knew that he won't make it, considering his condition. Hence, he told Clem to get out from there and to take care of Rebecca and his child. Clem proceeded further to the stockroom where Carver had taken the whole group hostage. Clem jumped on Carver, which gave Luke a chance to attack him. Kenny shot both of his knees and picked a crowbar and told everyone to go outside. But Clem disagreed and chose to watch even after being told by Sarita to come with her. After Kenny brutally massacred Carver, everyone, especially Sarita, started to think of him as a monster. But there was no time, so they began rubbing themselves in Walker guts. Then suddenly, Troy came in and was furious after witnessing the situation, but Jane lured him into a seductive conversation and shot him between the legs. After that, the group tried to blend in with the horde as they continued to escape, but Carver's people were open firing on the horde, which resulted in Carlos's death, which led to Sarah getting traumatized and getting separated from Clem. In the midst of all this chaotic situation, Sarita got bit by a walker on her arm, so Clem decided to chop it off. But Sarita got killed by the walkers anyway. Kenny came in rushing, but it was already too late for Sarita. Kenny became furious at Clem and went ahead along with Mike, while Luke and Nick also proceeded further in order to find Sarah. Clem was left alone, but luckily Rebecca managed to find her and told her to look for an opening between the crowd of walkers. And hence they went for it and succeeded in regrouping with Jane, who told them to stay calm and to walk slowly, but a huge cluster of walkers was in their way. So Jane chopped off a small walker's jaw with the help of Clem and used it as a shield in order to push forward. They managed to escape and succeeded in reaching Parker's Run, where the rest of the group was. Bonnie and Mike told them that Kenny had suffered serious emotional damage, which made him to act hostile towards the group. Clem tried to talk with him, but he furiously said that just because she's a kid, her wrongdoings won't be forgiven, and he requested her to leave him alone. Clem met with the others and told them about Kenny's status. They also decided that someone should head out and look for Luke, Nick and Sarah. Clem decided that she should go and Jane too. Both of them came across an abandoned house. On searching the outskirts, they found Sarah's glasses, which made Jane thought that she may be dead. But then suddenly they heard a man's voice from the house. Hence they decided to go in. On their way, they found Nick, who had already been turned into a walker. Jane told Clem to put him down, and so she did it. The house was surrounded by walkers and Luke and Sarah were trapped in there. Clem and Jane put a walker onto a vehicle's horn, which distracted the walkers. They pushed their way through them and succeeded in entering the house, where they found Luke all injured. He told them that he had been trying to get Sarah out of there since hours. But checking upon her, Clem found out that the trauma from losing her father had closed upon her. She gave up on living. Fortunately, Clem succeeded in knocking some sense into her and they all succeeded in escaping. On getting back, Bonnie told Clem that Rebecca's baby was coming faster than expected, and also that Kenny had been sitting in the tent for quite a while. Clem decided to check on him. He was in a state of grief, but Clem told him about the baby and succeeded in consoling him. They needed supplies in order to take care of Rebecca. Mike and Bonnie went for searching the nearby museum and Clem went for searching the observational deck where Jane was waiting for her. Clem and Jane were figuring out the way to go in. A strange Russian kid who had a disability was heading right towards them. Clem and Jane hid and decided to sneak up on him to make sure if he was dangerous or not. The kid, whose name was Arvo, had a bag with him which was full of medicine, but he begged them to not take them because they were for his sick sister. But Jane told Clem that Rebecca needed those medicines. Now it's up to the player to either take them or not, but it won't make much difference in the outcome. After dealing with Arvo, Jane threatened him and told him to never come back, and hence he left. Shortly after that, Clem joined Mike and Bonnie at the museum and succeeded in obtaining some water. As soon as they got back, they found out that a small herd of walkers was heading right towards them. Rebecca's condition was getting worse, so Clem, Bonnie, and Sarah decided to take her to the observational deck, while Mike and Kenny decided to hold them off. Clem came across Luke and Jane, who were making love in this chaos, but they all managed to get to the deck. Kenny decided to take care of Rebecca, while Clem and the others decided to fight the walkers. Sarah lost her life in the midst of all that, but there was no time for grieving because the walkers were slowly cornering them. Getting rid of the deck was the only option in order to fend off the walkers. Hence all of them survived and Rebecca got blessed with a baby boy. The season was changing and the group was running short on supplies. Meanwhile, Jane decided to leave the group and said that she does better when she is by herself. She gave Clem her nail file as a token of friendship. After she left, Kenny decided that they should leave and should head to Wellington because that place had got everything which Rebecca and her baby needed. Luke said that they should wait for Rebecca to get a little better, but she herself told him that she is capable of traveling. The group agreed to travel because they knew that they need those supplies. On their way, Rebecca wasn't doing well, so they decided to stop for a while. But then Arvo came in and demanded supplies from them. Few seconds later, more men showed up and pointed their guns at them, and hence the situation got really tense. In the midst of all that, Clem noticed that Rebecca had already died and came back as a walker. So shooting her was the only option, which resulted in a gunfight. Arvo's sister died in that chaos and Jane appeared again and saved them. Kenny was really mad at Arvo, but he promised that his place has food, so they agreed to follow him. But Kenny still despised him. After walking for a while, they decided to stop and rest. Bonnie asked Clem to clean Kenny's wound and to change his bandages. While she was treating his wound, Kenny decided to name the baby after Alvin, which was Alvin Jr. After this, they continued their journey and came across a small house, which really disappointed Kenny. But the group said that they were here for the food and not for staying. But the house was on the other side of the lake, which was frozen. The group decided to walk slowly and to not clump together. But soon walkers started following them and Arvo ran ahead. Kenny started to chase him, followed by Mike, and they ended up crossing the lake. But Clem and the others were left behind. Clem and Bonnie saw that the ice under Luke had been broke and the walkers were approaching him. Bonnie told Clem to go and help him, but Luke told Clem to cover him instead. So she decided to cover him and Bonnie went to help him. but the ice broke and both Luke and Bonnie fell into the cold water. Clem rushed to help them, but it was too late for Luke, and he drowned and died. But luckily they managed to save Bonnie, who was freezing. They rushed towards the house and quickly started to work in order to get a fire started. Meanwhile, Kenny was really mad at Arvo and started beating him. Mike and Jane stopped, but Kenny tied him up and started to work on a truck which was present outside. He insisted that they should leave for Wellington, while Jane insisted that they should go back to Carver's camp. In-house. Since both the ideas were against each other, they argued a lot. But soon her and Mike left Kenny alone. Mike and Jane were getting sick of Kenny. Jane even told Clem to not trust him multiple times. After a while, it was decided that they will leave tomorrow, and Clem went in the house to take a nap, but she woke up after hearing some disturbances from outside. She found that Mike, Bonnie and Arvo were leaving in the truck. Clem warned them, but they said that they can't stay with Kenny anymore. Clem threatened them, but Mike somehow disarmed her in order to negotiate. But Arvo shot her and Clem fell unconscious. Upon waking up, she found herself in the back seat of the truck, and Kenny and Jane were in the front. Both of them were arguing with each other non-stop, which led to the truck being disbalanced. Kenny went out in order to find gasoline from the wrecked vehicles nearby. Jane suggested Clem that they should leave with AJ while Kenny was gone, but Clem refused. The walkers were starting to surround the truck, so Jane told Clem to step on the truck's accelerator in order to get out from there. The truck got disbalanced and Clem ended up being separated from Jane. Clem walked for a while and ended up at a shop where she found Kenny. Jane too shortly joined them. Kenny inquired about AJ, but Jane, with a sad face, didn't reacted. Hence Kenny rushed outside and Jane told Clem to stay calm and to witness Kenny's true self. Kenny came back furiously and started to attack Jane. A fight broke out between both of them. Clem couldn't do anything other than watching, but when Kenny was about to kill Jane, she had a gun in her hand, but she chose not to shoot, and hence Jane died. Just when Kenny thought that AJ had died, they heard crying of a baby and they went in its direction. They found AJ, who was in a car and was doing okay. Kenny was relieved and told Clem that he was just trying to protect her. Clem said that she believed him and they proceeded further. 9 days later, they reached Wellington, but unfortunately, they were not accepting new people. Kenny requested her to just take AJ and Clem. Edith agreed to just have the children, but Clem refused and chose to stay with Kenny instead. And so both of them continued to wander on their own, but the journey was far from being over. One night, a man whose name was Javier Garcia was hurrying towards his family's home because he had received the news that his father is on the verge of his death, and he wished to see both of his sons, but Javier arrived at home when his father had already passed away, and his older brother David Garcia was really angry at him for this. He beat Harvey because he was not with his father in his last moments, but soon enough things went calm and Harvey was welcomed by his brother's wife Kate, his nephew Gabriel and his niece Mariana. But his mother was angry with him because of the same reason. Harvey's niece Mariana came downstairs from her grandpa's room and said that he was awake. The family was shocked to find out that what Mariana was saying was true. Harvey's mother rushed towards her husband, but he had completely lost conscience and was acting like a living corpse. He instantly attacked his own wife and injured her gravely. David and Harvey immediately tried to subdue him, but it was getting hard for them to control him. Alas, Harvey had no choice but to attack his own father, and they dealt with the chaos. But since their mother was bitten and injured, David decided to take her to the hospital. But he doesn't return. Hence, Harvey, Kate, Gabriel, and Mariana decided to move on their own separate way. 4 years later, a camp which Harvey set up was overrun by a horde of walkers, due to which they decided to get away far from them as possible. After driving for a while, the group stopped at a junkyard in order to search for fuel and other supplies. After collecting some fuel, Harvey and Gabe came across a small house which surprisingly had a lot of food and had a place to sleep. Gabe and Mariana insisted that they wished to stay there for at least the night, and Kate insisted that they should not take someone else's supplies. Harvey chose to side with Kate and decided that they should keep moving. Gabe and Mariana decided to grab at least some supplies while Harvey went outside for collecting his can of fuel. But he got ambushed by some people who claimed that the fuel and the whole junkyard were theirs. Harvey said that him and his people were just passing by and that they don't want any trouble. But those people decided to search the same small house in which Harvey's family was earlier along with Harvey. They found half-eaten pudding in there and concluded that someone was still in there. Hence, 2 of them went outside for searching and 1 stayed with Harvey. Suddenly, sounds of someone coughing came from underneath. Lonnie quickly opened the hatch and found Gabe and Mariana, who were hiding there. Harvey used this opportunity to knock him down, but those 2 came back and knocked out Harvey before he had a chance to explain himself. Upon waking up, Harvey found himself in a truck with his hands cuffed. He asked the driver about the situation and the whereabouts of his family, but the driver refused to give him a direct answer. Then suddenly a tree fell in front of the road, which resulted in an accident. Harvey somehow managed to get out from the truck and succeeded in obtaining a gun. He let the driver go instead of killing him, but soon after that, someone pointed a shotgun at him and told him to drop his gun. This person was none other than Clementine, who was responsible for the tree. Clem told Harvey that she needed a vehicle to drive. Harvey told Clem about his family and that he needs help in order to find them. Clem agreed to help him, but only if Harvey gave her his van, to which Harvey agreed. And they both proceeded further, but Clem still didn't trust him. After walking for a bit, they came across the horde of walkers, so Clem decided to stay at a nearby town called Prescott until the horde passes. Upon reaching near Prescott, they found out that the main gate was surrounded by dozens of walkers. Tripp, who was defending the gate, said that the gate cannot be opened until all the walkers are cleared. Hence, Clem and Harvey decided to stay and defend. In the midst of all that, Clem's loaded gun was unable to fire any bullet, but luckily Harvey saved her. Soon enough, Tripp opened the gate and all were in. Tripp allowed them to stay for a while. Clem took Harvey into a bar and told Harvey to make some friends, as she decided to confront the guy about the defective bullets. As Harvey was playing poker with Francia and Conrad, he heard Clem and Eli's argument. Eli insisted on not replacing the bullets even after Harvey interfered. Clem fired her gun at him in order to show him that his bullets don't work. Eli refused to believe it and attacked Harvey suddenly, but Harvey easily defended himself. He tried to calm things down by trading batteries with Clem, but Clem only wanted bullets, and in order to show him again, Clem fired the gun again, but this time the bullets worked and she ended up killing Eli. Clem quickly told Harvey to say that it was an act of self-defense, but Conrad was already on to them. Tripp soon came in and asked Harvey about it, to which he replied that it was self-defense, but Tripp decided to lock them up anyway. He soon sent a doctor whose name was Eleanor to treat Harvey's wound. Eleanor asked about the matter. Harvey told her that Eli had it coming. After learning that Harvey had to find his family, Eleanor told him that Prescott has got a rear gate through which an escape is possible. She offered to help Harvey and told him to think about the offer. After she left, Clem told Harvey that Tripp is more trustworthy than Eleanor. Harvey agreed and decided to go with Tripp in the morning. Clem and Harvey's bond of trust grew stronger and they decided to get some sleep. In the morning, they arrived at the junkyard and found out that the whole place was overrun by the walkers. Harvey reunited with Mariana, who was hiding. Harvey asked her about Kate and Gabe. Mariana told him that they ran towards the van as soon as the walkers showed up. After reaching the van, the group found out that the van was a complete wreck, and then they found out that Kate and Gabe were trapped inside the truck, which was surrounded by walkers. Harvey and the others killed all of them, and Harvey was finally reunited with Kate and Gabe. Harvey introduced them to Clem and Tripp, and all of them decided to go to Prescott. When Mariana was picking up her headphones, she got shot in the head and died on the spot. Harvey couldn't believe his eyes, and soon bullets were raining all over the place. Kate decided to retrieve Mariana's body but ended up being shot in the abdomen. Gabe rushed towards Kate and both got pinned down, but Harvey managed to shoot some of them, which gave them some time to regroup with others. Tripp told Harvey that they should mourn Mariana later and that Kate really needs a doctor, so they should fall back to Prescott. But Clem insisted that they should stay and deal with them because they may come after Harvey's family again if let go. Tripp and Gabe opposed this, but Harvey agreed with Clem and chose to fight them. Meanwhile, Tripp, Kate and Gabe escaped to Prescott. Their enemies threw a flash grenade at Clem and Harvey, which blinded Harvey for a bit. Upon waking up, Clem told him that they got away and that she had dug a grave for Mariana. After burying Mariana and grieving, they found a walker who had a mark on his neck. Harvey realized that their enemies too had the same mark. Clem got uneasy and told Harvey that she had encountered these people before and that those people call themselves the New Frontier. She also told Harvey that she was stuck in their camp for a while and she barely made it out alive. Harvey asked some questions, but Clem dropped the convo and told Harvey that she can escort him to Prescott, but after that she will part ways with him. After reaching Prescott, Harvey straight away rushed to the infirmary where Kate was with Eleanor. Eleanor told Harvey that Kate is stable for now but is suffering from internal bleeding and that she probably won't survive for much longer. Harvey refused to believe it, but Eleanor told him that she tried her best and that she's extremely sorry. After wandering around for a bit, Harvey found Gabe, who was really sad and frustrated. He told Harvey that he's done being helpless. While they were talking, Harvey noticed lights coming from the bushes. Tripp on the spot declared an emergency and told everyone to get inside. As soon as they got inside, Harvey told Gabe that they may have to leave and to go get Kate ready. After that, Harvey regroups with Tripp, Convert and Clem to see that who approached them. They were the same people who attacked Harvey's family at the junkyard. One of them, whose name was Badger, claimed that Harvey's group fired first, to which Harvey responded by saying that they too killed Mariana. Badger replied that Harvey killed a lot of his friends and demanded him to come with them so that they could give him punishment. They brought out and held Francine as a hostage and threatened to kill her if Harvey refuses to come with them. They chopped one of Francine's fingers to warn them. Conrad begged Harvey to surrender, whereas Trip and Clem opposed this stance, but Harvey agreed to come down and surrendered. They subdued Harvey and released Francine, but Clem had already sneaked down there and started shooting. A gunfire began in which Francine got caught. Badger got mad and decided to ram the main gate with their truck. The sound of the guns attracted walkers too, and soon they were all over the place. Their enemies had thrown tear gas bombs, which made things more difficult for Harvey's group. Harvey decided to find Kate, and Trip decided to hold them back. Harvey succeeded in regrouping with Gabe, Eleanor, and Kate, and managed to steal one of the enemy's vehicle. Trip told them to head east and that he will catch her, followed by Clem. The whole Prescott collapsed and got overrun by the walkers and the marauders. While they were on their way, the group decided to stop for a while. Harvey noticed that Conrad was in grief, so he decided to console him. But Conrad got hostile and blamed Harvey for Francine's and everyone's death at Prescott. Harvey said that he had lost someone too, but Conrad still continued to blame him. Then Gabe suddenly came in and pointed a gun at Conrad and told him to back off from Harvey. Harvey slowly approached Gabe and told him that this is not the correct way to do things. But Gabe still insisted. Harvey told him that if he pulled the trigger, then he will regret this decision for the rest of his life. Gabe listened and put the gun away and ran away after warning Conrad to not touch his uncle ever again. Conrad got down, sobbed, and insisted that they should go back and bury Francine. Trip said that they cannot because the whole place had been overrun, but Eleanor suggested that they cannot survive out in the open either. Clem suggested that they should head to Richmond because she had heard about a community there which is well equipped with supplies and walls. Conrad and the others agreed with this plan, and Conrad vowed to take revenge for Francine, and the group decided to proceed further. On their way, they had to stop because a lot of cars were clogged in their way. So they decided to move the cars out of the way. With the help of some jumper cables and a truck which was present near the place, Harvey managed to clear the road, but the walkers were starting to surround them. So Harvey told Eleanor to go to Richmond with Kate and that they will catch up later. Soon enough, Trip, Gabe, Conrad, Clem, and Harvey were surrounded by a horde of walkers. The group decided to escape to a nearby roof, but soon they found out that they were stuck. An argument broke out among them, but suddenly Harvey noticed a person above the nearby roof. The group took cover and got cautious. Harvey yelled that his people don't want any trouble, but the stranger had already disappeared. Harvey decided to go ahead by himself for investigation. Harvey approached the figure slowly, but the stranger outsmarted him and pointed a gun at his head. He said that he just wants to talk and asked Harvey that if his group is going to Richmond, then on whose side are they on? But he got distracted by a noise of whistle. Harvey used this opening to fight him. Clem and the others joined and made things easier. Trip thought that the stranger was with the New Frontier, so he confronted him, but the stranger denied the allegation. Conrad checked him for the mark but didn't find it. The stranger told them that he's from Richmond and that he can take Harvey and his group straight through an old tunnel. He even revealed that the New Frontier had taken over Richmond, which was his home. The group was shocked and started panicking because Kate and Eleanor were heading straight towards the New Frontier. Harvey told everyone to calm down and said that things will be okay if they reached Richmond before Kate and Eleanor. Conrad suggested to cuff the stranger, whose nickname was Jesus, but Harvey agreed to trust him. When they were passing through the tunnel, Clem revealed to Harvey that she was one of the members of the New Frontier. Harvey was shocked. Clem told him that she was desperate at that time and she ended the convo there. She also told him that when they will reach the other side of the tunnel, she will be leaving because she can't let them see her. The group proceeded further but got attacked by a lot of walkers. Harvey took the lead and told others to follow him. But there was a train in their way, so they decided to go around it. Clem, Harvey and Gabe decided to block the door while the others went ahead. They succeeded in blocking the door, but then suddenly Conrad pointed his gun at Clem. Apparently he had overheard Clem's conversation with Harvey earlier. Gabe was shocked. Conrad suggested that they can use Clem as a bargaining chip in order to get anything from the new frontier. Clem replied that this plan is simply stupid. Gabe sided with Clem. Conrad then made Gabe hostage and threatened to kill him. He asked Harvey to think about his plan. Harvey put a bullet right through Conrad's head and killed him. Gabe was panting and Clem said to them that they should go and that she will find her own way. Harvey told Gabe that he had no other choice. Both of them reached outside of tunnel where Trip and the rest were. Trip asked about Conrad. Harvey simply replied that he's gone and that Clem had gone her own way. Trip was furious and got frustrated after hearing this. Harvey insisted on finding Kate and Eleanor, with which Trip agreed, and they proceeded. The streets were surprisingly quiet. They crouched as they stealthily approached the gate. They found Kate's car and Harvey rushed towards Kate and hugged her along with Gabe. Harvey asked about Eleanor. Kate replied that she went ahead to get help, but hasn't came back yet. Harvey and the rest decided to walk through the front door and ask them to get medical help for Kate. Upon reaching there, Harvey requested them to treat Kate, but they refused. After negotiating a bit, they asked Harvey's group to drop their weapons, to which he agreed on. Then suddenly the front door was open. Then Harvey's brother David walked right out in the front to see what was going on. Harvey and his family were in a state of shock. Both brothers couldn't believe their eyes. Gabe ran and hugged his father. David told the men to lower their guns. Harvey told him about Kate's condition and David immediately took her inside. Meanwhile, the guards told Harvey that all newcomers must go into quarantine for a while and that it will apply on Harvey even if he is David's brother. David had no choice but to agree. Inside the quarantine room, they reunited with Eleanor. Trip was angry at Harvey and told him that the new frontier destroyed the whole Prescott and they should pay for that. Harvey told them that they will play along with their rules for now, and then when the time comes, they will demand justice. The group agreed and suddenly David walked in. He said that Kate wished to see Harvey. Harvey agreed to go with him as he promised the group that he will be back. On their way, David mourned Mariana and asked Harvey about that, how she died. Harvey also told him that his people were the ones who did it. David was shocked and immediately asked Harvey about the details. Harvey told him everything he knew. David then said that he will look into the matter and will make sure that Max and Badger get what they deserve. He also told Harvey that 4 people, including himself, run Richmond, and he has to impress the other 3 if he wishes to stay, and also requested him to not stir things up. As they proceeded, David introduced Harvey to Ava, who was his trustworthy right-hand person. They went ahead. After the introduction, they arrived at the treatment center where Kate was with Gabe. Kate faked a stomach pain, which made Gabe and David to rush out for finding a doctor. After they were gone, Kate told Harvey that they can't stay at this place because it's like a cage and that she wishes to stay with Harvey. Harvey said that he will think about it. Soon David came in with the doctor, who said that Kate's stitches may have opened, which caused the pain, and nothing else was serious. The doctor also agreed to vouch for Harvey and his people as he was impressed by Eleanor's skills. Harvey and David left and went to an old church where David introduced Harvey to Clint, who managed the food production, and John, who handled contacts with other settlements. They all sat down and Clint told Harvey that him and his people will have to follow certain rules and will be bossed around if they want to stay. Harvey agreed. Then Max and Badger suddenly came in. Harvey was furious, but David told him to sit down. Clint said that it was him who called them, so that they could sort things out between them and Harvey. John asked Max about the conflict. Max answered that Harvey was stealing fuel from one of his vehicles. Harvey replied that his group was in desperate need of that fuel. Max responded that he would have given it to Harvey if he had just asked. Max continued by saying that Harvey was friends with Clementine, who Max believed to be untrustable. Clint agreed with Max and said that they refused to keep Harvey and his group. David objected but was unsuccessful. Clint and John ordered some men to take Harvey back to quarantine room with bare minimum supplies. David consoled Harvey by saying that he will be there for Kate and Gabe. Harvey, Tripp, and Jesus were escorted at the entrance by Ava, who told them to go to the settlement nearby and warned them to never come back. She gave them a bag which had some supplies and a baseball bat in it with a map attached to it. With the help of the map, they found that they were supposed to head north, and they proceeded further with the help of the North Star. On their way, they came across a horde who was heading in the same direction as them. They decided to push through. As they were fighting off some walkers, they reunited with Clementine. Harvey told her everything about Richmond and also that David was his brother. Clem told him that David can't be trusted. She told them about her past when she snuck to one of the New Frontiers camp in order to get some medicine for AJ. In one of the camps, she found medicine and a syringe, but Dr. Lingard woke up and told Clem to not waste the last vancomycin on AJ, and he said that AJ can't be cured. But Clem insisted on trying and gave AJ the shot. David listened AJ's crying and rushed over there. He got angry at Clem. Clem replied that he couldn't just let him die. David refused to listen and furiously kicked out Clem from the New Frontier. But David decided that AJ will stay. Clem refused, but they snatched him from her. Clem had no choice but to leave with sadness and frustration after saying goodbye to AJ. After listening to Clem's story, the group arrived at the factory which was marked on the map. Whole place was crawling with walkers. They somehow managed to get inside. David too followed them over there, but Clem wasn't happy about it. She threatened to shoot Harvey if he let David in, but she agreed to have him after finding out that he has a son. David was surprised to see Clem and told Harvey that she was trouble. But Harvey and the others vouched for her. Clem asked David about AJ. David answered that AJ is alive. Everyone was shocked to hear this. Clem at first thought that he was lying, but believed him after Harvey vouched for David. Clem asked David about AJ's whereabouts, to which he replied that Dr. Lingard would know. David further told Harvey that he came to set them up in that place, and after that he will say goodbye and that he will take care of his family. Harvey said that they were his family too, while disagreeing with David. As they were arguing, the walkers broke the gate. Harvey and David managed to block the gate. After that, upon searching, they found boxes and crates from Prescott there. Tripp was furious at David. David replied that he didn't had anything to do with it and that he will look into the matter. Jesus found boxes from a lot of settlements which were present there too. Then suddenly they heard muffled voices of people who were coming towards them. They all hid. Those people were none other than Badger, Max, and Lonnie. Soon a fight broke out and Badger tried to run away. Harvey chased him and soon caught up with him. After defeating Badger in a fight, Harvey shot him in the gut and finished him off with his bat. Even after Tripp's objections, who just got there, they suddenly heard a gunshot and found after searching there that David had subdued Max. Max was begging for mercy. David insisted on knowing the truth. Max revealed that he did everything on John's orders. Max said that he will help them if they let him live. Harvey agreed and David knocked him out. Jesus parted ways with the group to help his people and Max led them to Richmond after waking up. David decided to get to Lingard and Clint before John in order to ally with them, and Harvey agrees to back him up. They took Badger's truck and started to head towards Richmond. Upon reaching, they went in via the sewers. They decided to split up. Tripp and Harvey chose to go to Eleanor, Kate, and Gabe. David sat to meet up with him at his house after he has paid a visit to Joan. And Clem decided to see if anyone has any info on AJ. Tripp and Harvey somehow managed to reach the medical center. Harvey reunited with Kate and Gabe and told them to leave with him to David's house. Kate told Harvey to not get involved with all this. Then Eleanor and Tripp suddenly came in. Kate told them that they are leaving Richmond instead of going to David's house. Gabe protested about helping his dad despite Kate's decision. Harvey agreed with Gabe and chose to go to David's house. Tripp and Eleanor left and said that they will catch up with them later, and Kate was frustrated at Harvey. After reaching David's house, they saw Ava there, who told them to follow her because David was in a big trouble. Harvey chose to go alone in order to keep Gabe and Kate safe. Ava took Harvey to the same church where David was having an argument with Clint and Joan. Joan didn't like to see Harvey there because they didn't allow him to stay there before. Harvey said that Joan ordered raids on other settlements and looted them. Clint asked for proof, so Harvey pushed Max in front to confess the truth. Max said everything, after which Clint and Lingard were really disappointed at Joan. Joan justified her actions by saying that she did all that for Richmond and its survival. But Harvey and David straight away labeled it unethical. Joan ordered her men to take David and Harvey to the cell. In the cell, Joan paid the brothers a visit and said that she's going to hold a gathering in the square and she plans to replace him as the head of security. After that, she called David in private for asking some questions. While Harvey decided to find a way out from the cell, he came across Gabe, who helped him in getting out. Richmond was surrounded by a herd of walkers. Gabe told Harvey that Eleanor had found a safe place where the rest of the group is. Gabe still insisted on saving David as they arrived at Eleanor's place. They succeeded in sneaking in. They reunited with Kate, Ava, Tripp, and Eleanor. Harvey told them the whole story. Kate and the others suggested leaving the place after hearing it. The horde of walkers had surrounded the whole place. Harvey and Gabe decided to go to the armory in order to get some guns. They somehow managed to sneak into the armory and grabbed some weapons. When they were on their way out, they came across a guard. Harvey dealt with him but got a really deep cut in his shoulder. Ava decided to take him to Dr. Lingard as he was trustworthy. Gabe and Ava went ahead and Harvey reunites with Clem in the doctor's office. Clem said that she was there to ask Lingard about AJ's whereabouts, but Lingard was passed out due to consuming drugs, so Clem decided to stitch up Harvey's wound instead. Then Lingard gains consciousness and he revealed that it was David who took personal responsibility for AJ. It took a bit for Clem to digest this fact, but she changed her mind about David. Lingard further said that he wishes to die with overdose. Harvey chose to do it because it was the only way for them to get him to reveal AJ's whereabouts. Lingard said that he is at the McCarroll Ranch, which was a few miles up in the west. Lingard requested Harvey and Clem to make sure he doesn't turn, and he passed away. Harvey then reunites with Gabe and Eva, and the group proceeded towards Eleanor's place. Tripp suggested that they should go after Joan if they wish to solve the problem. Then Harvey suggested that they should make as many allies as possible at David's trial, and Eva suggested to use the truck which was parked at one of their zones as the getaway vehicle. Kate too joined them, and Gabe was frustrated because Harvey and the others weren't allowing him to come with them. Since he was angry, he revealed the fact about Harvey killing Conrad in front of everybody. Harvey replied that he did that to save his life, but Tripp and Eleanor got furious and told Harvey that they never wished to see him again, even after listening to his and Clem's reasons. They proceeded without Tripp and Eleanor to get the truck. Gabe was still angry with Harvey. They somehow managed to steal the truck and escaped. They decided to wait for Eva's call for further instructions. Meanwhile, Kate confessed her love to Harvey, which Harvey accepted. Eva suddenly called and said that Joan plans to execute David publicly. Without a second thought, they left the truck and decided to go there by foot. Kate decided to stay with the truck, and Gabe, Clem, and Harvey proceeded further to save David. When they arrived on the site where David was on the gallows and Joan was delivering a speech, she revealed the corpses of Lingard and Badger and claimed that David ordered Harvey to kill them. The crowd was shocked. Joan noticed Harvey and called him out in front of everyone. She demanded him to deliver some remarks. Harvey came forward, and Joan asked him loudly that why did he kill Lingard, who was their only surgeon. Harvey answered that Lingard knew all the dark secrets about Joan's actions, and he wished to not witness their heinous consequences. Joan further revealed that she talked with Eleanor last night, who was also in the crowd, to confirm it, and who revealed all of Harvey's plans to Joan. Joan then further brought Tripp and Eva on the stage and held them hostage. She told Harvey that he can only spare one of those two. Harvey picked Tripp, but Joan ordered to get him killed anyway, and hence Tripp died. Everyone there was frozen in their boots. Clint was really disappointed and said that this is not how things should work. Harvey requested him to stop Joan, so Clint suggested to exile Harvey's family, including Clementine, out of Richmond. Joan pretended to agree with that, while David yelled at Harvey and told him to shoot Joan. Harvey agreed and shot her right in the head on the spot. A chaos emerged there, and Joan's men were raining bullets. In the midst of all that, Gabe and Harvey managed to rescue David. David soon ran off for taking revenge. Gabe wished to go after him, but Harvey told him that it's not worth it. Two of them reunited with Clem, and Kate too came in on the truck for them. But one of the guards threw a Molotov at the truck, which led to an accident, and the truck blasted. Harvey thought that she died. He rushed towards the wrecked truck without any hesitation, but he didn't find her anywhere. Harvey reunited with David, and soon they both started looking for Kate, and luckily they came across her. Both of them were relieved, but Kate chose to hug Harvey first, which rubbed David the wrong way. They succeeded in reuniting with Gabe and Clem too, and they took shelter inside a nearby building. Gabe and David got into an argument, but things got sorted out soon enough. David decided to check the other entrances in order to make sure that everything is safe. He decided to take Gabe with him. Clem decided to join them too, and Harvey and Kate decided to look for any survivors. There were a lot of injured people there. Kate blamed herself for all that, but Harvey told her that this wasn't her fault. Kate decided to make things right by helping the survivors. They met with Eleanor, who blamed Harvey for Tripp's death. Harvey said that he came here to help and asked her that why she snitched to Joan. Eleanor answered that she was triaging a bad situation. Kate told Harvey to forgive her, but he said that she will have to earn it. Eleanor scoffed and went back to her work. David came in to check on Vernon Rufus, who was bitten. Rufus's wife requested them to chop off his arm in order to prevent the infection. But Eleanor refused because a lot of time had already passed. His wife insisted and begged Harvey, but he too refused it. Rufus's wife got angry and pointed a gun at Harvey. Kate came ahead of Harvey while David gave her orders to lower the gun. Kate said to her that the explosion was her fault and that her daughter died because of her. David rushed in and disarmed her while breaking her arm. Then he went to Rufus and shot him in the head as his wife continued to cry loudly. Everyone was mad at David, who claimed that she was almost about to shoot. The woman tried to reach her gun, but David saw through it and was about to shoot her, but Gabe jumped in and tried to stop him. David pushed him away, which he regretted later. He apologized, but Gabe was really angry at his father. The group was starting to be afraid of David. David left the room and told them that they are on their own. Kate told Harvey to go after him. David was at the rooftop, standing at the edge. Harvey thought that he was gonna suicide. David said that he wanted to show something to Harvey, so Harvey stood at the edge with him. David showed him that the whole Richmond was full of walkers. He smiled and told Harvey that he's a soldier and he was made for situations like these. He also said that he wishes to change himself, but Harvey answered that he doesn't have to. David appreciated his compassion and both of them stepped off the edge. Kate suddenly rushed in, followed by Gabe, Clem and Ava. Harvey apologized to Ava about earlier. Ava accepted it. Harvey decided that they should stabilize the city, and Kate suggested to use the construction vehicles to stop the walkers and to seal the breach. Going through the roofs was the only option. On their way, Ava fell to her death because of a walker. David grieved, but he knew that moving forward was the only option. They somehow managed to reach the water tower, but they realized that they can't proceed further without a vehicle. But the ground was full of walkers. Gabe suggested to distract them by using a generator. Clem suggested to rub walker guts on someone so that they could slip right through the herd, and she picked Harvey. Harvey agreed and succeeded in turning on the generator, which distracted the walkers. David decided that they all should leave Richmond, but everyone disagreed because they can't just leave the people of Richmond to die. David insisted, and Gabe surprisingly agreed with David and said that he wants to be a family again with his father. But Kate strongly disagreed and slapped David because of his decision, and also said that she's done with him. Harvey also told David about him and Kate, which made David furious as hell. He started to beat Harvey, but Harvey kept saying, "I love you," even though he almost killed him. Clem came in and pointed a gun at David in order to stop him. Some walkers came in and David took that opportunity and escaped with Gabe. Kate said that she still wants to save Richmond, and Clem said she got Harvey's back no matter what decision he makes. Harvey chose to go after David along with Clem on the bike. When Harvey caught up to them, he found out that David and Gabe were trapped in the car, which was surrounded by walkers. Harvey cleared them all out and rescued both of them. Harvey decided to go back to Richmond where Kate was, but David refused and said that he can't face her after all this, and he walked away. Harvey and the others came back, reunited with Jesus, who was clearing out the rest of the walkers while riding on a horse. They got the gates open and everyone got inside, but Kate was nowhere to be found. Harvey found her as one of the walkers, and he knew that he has to end it, and he did so and screamed his heart out as he got down to his knees. Kate succeeded in saving Richmond. 3 days later, after paying respects to Kate in the church, Harvey came across Jesus, who suggested Harvey to lead Richmond, to which Harvey agreed. Gabe too came to bid Jesus farewell, and Jesus left. Clem joins Harvey and told him that she is also leaving to find AJ, and she asked him for a favor, and that is to trim her hair. After they were done, Harvey promised Clem that he will teach her and AJ baseball if she brings him back. The gates opened, Clem hugged Gabe and bid them farewell, and her journey to find AJ began. Clementine and AJ were traveling on a road on a car. They came across an abandoned train station and decided to stop there in order to find some food and water. They succeeded in finding a lot of food in the ticket booth's secret room, but it turned out to be a trap, and hence a blast occurred. Clem and AJ were able to avoid it, but the sound attracted every walker towards them. They rushed to their car while fighting the walkers along the way, and immediately drove from there, but they crashed and Clem passed out. After waking up, she found herself in a huge house with her hands tied, and AJ was nowhere to be found. Clem unbinded herself and started snooping around. She succeeded in obtaining a small knife and tried to escape through the hallway, but she heard someone's footsteps and thus quickly chose to hide. She saw a kid who had already found that she had escaped from the room. She threatened him to put down his knife, but suddenly a man showed up and threatened Clem instead with a bow and arrow. He even said that he doesn't want to hurt her and that AJ is totally safe. Clem dropped her knife and told him to do the same. His name was Marlon, and the kid's name was 10. Marlon took Clem to AJ. The whole place was full of youngsters and kids. Marlon also said to Clem that her car was completely wrecked. He also said that this place was used to be a school, but now it is run by him. He claimed the place to be safe and perfect. But suddenly, a kid shouted at Marlon by saying that they have got walkers on the fence. Marlon had to leave. He said to Clem before leaving that AJ was with a boy named Louis, and to find him, she will have to go where the music is coming from. Clem was confused but succeeded in finding him, who was on the ground floor only. AJ hugged Clem and was glad to see her. Clem thanked Louis for taking care of AJ. Louis also told Clem that Marlon had left their bag of things there too, which Clem and AJ retrieved. Louis went back to singing and playing piano, which both Clem and AJ admired and appreciated. Suddenly, Marlon came in and said that there has been some trouble outside. Clem and AJ agreed to help, followed by Louis. Upon reaching there, it was found out that the walkers were more in numbers outside the gate. A girl whose name was Violet said that sound from Clem and AJ's car accident attracted them, but Louis somehow managed to calm things down. The gate opened and everyone went outside to clear out the walkers. Clem left AJ inside and told him to call out her name if he notices anything. He agreed and Clem went ahead. After getting rid of the walkers, Marlon introduced his dog Rosie to Clem, who could tear off a walker's head with its jaws. And they all decided to go inside. One of the boys, whose name was Asim, told Marlon that they will have to scout ahead further for food if they want to survive winter. But Marlon dismissed him and told him to save the topic for later. Clem wanted AJ to make some friends there, so she chose to help him. AJ met with Mitch, Willie, Omar, who was the cook, Asim, who was writing his journal, and Ruby, and successfully got acquainted with them. He then went to Marlon and Brody and apologized for all the troubles he had caused. They wholeheartedly accepted him and Clem. Soon dinner was ready and they all went for the meal and decided to play a game of cards too. And they got to know Clem and AJ a lot better. Clem and AJ soon decided to go to sleep. They had their own room. In the morning, they decided to go to Marlon's office in order to find out if he plans to let them stay or not. He agreed to take them and told them that it is getting harder and harder to obtain food. He showed them the place's map and said that the safe zone is getting smaller and smaller and that people die whenever they step outside of it. Clem and AJ agreed to help him in any way they can. Marlon ordered Clem to help Louis and Asim in finding rabbits or to help Violet and Brody in fishing. Clem and AJ chose to help in fishing. They all arrived at the shack, which was near a stream. Things got better between Clem and Violet. After fishing, they decided to catch up with Louis and Asim. After reaching there, they found out that someone had sabotaged their hunt, and Asim and Louis were nowhere to be found. AJ found a walker who was hanging upside down on a tree, with a stick stuck in its mouth. Clem also found a piece of burnt cigarette, which was unusual because none of those two smoked. Then suddenly both of the lost boys appeared. They said that they were checking some nearby traps. Apparently someone was robbing them. Brody had a panic attack, so she went back. Clem decided to look at the train station where she was earlier with AJ because that place had food. The group agreed because that was their only choice. They arrived there, but the place was crawling with walkers. Clem and AJ somehow managed to sneak in and succeeded in retrieving the supplies. But a man came in and threatened both of them by pointing a gun at them. He said that he was also there for food and he was all by himself. AJ came out of the trapdoor and pointed his gun at the man, but he didn't take him seriously. Clem suddenly jumped and pushed him and he got grabbed and killed by the walkers outside the window. Violet came in too and started filling the bag along with Clem, and they all ran like hell and got back to the Erickson. Everyone was happy to see the food and they expressed that how grateful they were to have Clem and AJ. But Brody was angry at them after finding out that she had to kill a man. Brody added that his people may come after them due to Clem's actions. Marlon tried to calm her down, but she pushed him and went inside. Clem then apologized to Marlon for going outside the safe zone. He told her to not mind and that he will talk to Brody. After having dinner, Clem and AJ decided to head to bed. Both of them woke up after hearing someone arguing. Clem decided to check it out, followed by AJ. The noises were coming from the basement, but the door was locked from both sides. Clem found a way through the cellar door, which was present in the yard. After getting into the airy basement, Clem found out that it was Marlon and Brody who were arguing about the same matter, due to which Brody was angry with Clem. Clem sneaked up slowly, but they noticed her anyway. Marlon said that They were just talking and told Clem to go back to sleep. Clem said that she wants to know the matter, but Marlon refused. Then Brody suddenly revealed that they have got history with the man with whom Clem met with at the station. Marlon didn't like her revealing that. Clem encouraged her to reveal more. Brody said that Marlon let him take 10 twin sisters. Marlon got mad and hit Brody with the flashlight. Her head started bleeding and she passed out. Marlon regretted that instantly. Clem told Marlon to step back from her and he went for finding a first aid kit. Meanwhile, Clem tried to talk with her but she had suffered a concussion. Clem succeeded in trying to get her remember at least some things. Brody told her that she and AJ are in danger. Clem asked her that what kind of danger, but she answered that Marlon will kill her if she tells her. She also said that if those raiders come back, then Marlon will give Clem and AJ to them, like he did with 10 sisters. And she died. Marlon too came in and was shocked. He ran outside and locked Clem in the basement with dead Brody. Clem shouted but no one listened. Luckily there was a small gap between the closed trapdoor. So Clem found a ruler downstairs and succeeded in opening the door. She found out that everyone was gathered in the yard and AJ was threatening to kill Marlon while asking him about Clem. Marlon lied that it was Clem who killed Brody. Clem joined them and told them the whole truth. Marlon denied her and showed everyone the blood which was present on Clem's hands. Clem didn't know how to react and Marlon rushed towards AJ and took his gun when he was distracted. Clem mentioned about Marlon trading people with raiders and she told everyone what Brody told her before her death. Marlon started gaslighting everyone and said that Clem can't be trusted. But Violet chose to defend Clem and stood up to Marlon. Soon everyone went against him. Marlon said while crying that he didn't wanted any of this and that he was trying to protect everyone. He also said that he wished to leave and to never come back. Before anyone could say anything, AJ shot Marlon right in the head and killed him. Everyone froze in their boots. In the morning after waking up, AJ made her some coffee and told Clem that Louis had called him a murderer. Clem said that Marlon had it coming and that Louis will soon understand it. Almost everyone was mad at them. 10 came in and requested them to attend Marlon's funeral, so they decided to go to it. Nobody was happy to see them but Violet vouched for them. Mitch got angry at AJ after the funeral but he told him that he was justified. The others didn't like hearing this and got furious at Clem. Clem said Marlon was a threat to everybody and AJ protected them by killing him. Violet took Clem's side. Mitch declared that they will decide if Clem and AJ stay or not. So voting was decided. The results came and it was decided that Clem and AJ will have to leave. Louis and Violet decided to escort them outside the safe zone. The two of them bid Clem and AJ farewell and they left. Clem and AJ proceeded further. After walking for a bit, they heard a gunshot and they quickly hid themselves. They found out that it was the same man from the train station whose one arm was missing. Clem attacked and succeeded in subduing him. She warned him to go away but soon another person came from behind and subdued Clem instead. AJ jumped in to try and save Clem but failed. The woman said that they were looking for Marlon and his community. Clem answered that Marlon's dead. The woman then asked Clem to take them to the school. It was then when Clem saw the woman's face. It was no one but Lily, who was shocked to see Clem. She helped Clem to get up and told her that AJ will only slow her down. She further said that she will take in her and AJ if they get her all the kids from the Erickson. She also promised that no harm will be done. But Louis and Violet were right behind Lily and Abel. Violet pointed her bow and arrow at Lily as she waited for Clem's signal. Clem told them to shoot and Violet shot her right in the shoulder. Abel shot right at Louis's hand, but Clem and AJ succeeded in running. Lily and Abel still chased them, but they lost them. AJ got shot in abdomen, so Clem told him to sit down as she fought with the walkers. Among the walkers, there was a man who was dressed like a walker, who told Clem to follow him. Clem carried AJ and went behind him. He put AJ on a tree and decided to treat him. After treating AJ, all three of them sat around a campfire. He told them that he was part of a group called Whisperers, who had learned to live and move among walkers. He also said that he left it because they had destroyed a community of people. He gave Clem and AJ something to eat. He took off his mask and said that his name is James. James revealed that Lily and her people are at a war up north against another community, and that is why they take people, for increasing their numbers and manpower. Meanwhile, AJ got a fever. James told Clem to go back to the school in order to get some medicine for him. Clem agreed, and in the morning all of them left for the school. Upon arriving there, Louis agreed to take them in, and they all agreed to treat AJ. Violet invited Clem in private to talk. Clem told her everything which James told her about Lily's people, and they started to plan their defenses. Mitch and Ruby then barged in. Ruby said AJ is gonna be okay. Violet ordered Mitch to help Clem in getting the barbed wire from the greenhouse, even though he didn't like that. Ruby said that she will help too. They succeeded in finding barbed wires and also obtained fertilizer and propane for making explosives. 2 weeks later, their defense were finally ready. Clem decided to check on everyone's preparations. While they were on the lookout, Clem and AJ noticed some movements, and hence they alerted everyone. Clem decided to attract their attention, and Mitch decided to plant the bombs under their carts. But they suddenly got ambushed by them, and Omar got shot in his leg. Everyone got scattered and decided to hide. Lily and Abel soon barged in through the front door, along with a bunch of people. All of them started searching for the group, but then Clem pointed her bow and arrow at Lily and started threatening her. Lily ordered her men to search the yard and commanded them to shoot Clem if she moves. Mitch sneaked from around and succeeded in planting bombs on the cart. Lily suddenly mentioned one of Ten's sister, Minerva, who was supposed to be dead. Ten came to her and started asking about his sister. Lily said that she will take him to her. Clem told Ten that she was lying, and Lily suddenly took him hostage. But Mitch ignited the bomb's fuse and it blasted, which gave our group time to prepare for battle. Clem shot Lily, but she dodged. Mitch tried to get her from behind, but Lily slashed his throat with a knife and he died. Lily ordered her people to kill who they have to and to take some of them. Everyone decided to fall back inside the school and went upstairs in order to hide. They found them, but Clem and AJ fell back inside Marlon's office, where Abel cornered them. As Clem was fighting with him, she fell down from the balcony along with him. Abel's leg was broken, so he couldn't get up, but Lily was right in front of her with a gun, but she was hesitating to pull the trigger. Violet jumped in and attacked her, and Abel got mauled by Rosie. One of Lily's men dragged Violet with him for taking her, and Soon the walkers started coming in too. Both Louis and Violet were being dragged, but Clem chose to save Louis instead of Violet. Lily ordered her people to fall back and they left with Violet, Asim and Omar. The school was full of walkers which they managed to clean up soon. After things calmed down, they mourned Mitch and Clem decided to go and rescue Violet, Asim and Omar. And in order to get details about Lily's place, they took half-dead Abel hostage for questioning. They tied Abel in the basement. Clem went to have a word with him along with AJ. He was tied to a chair. Clem woke him up. AJ kicked his broken leg to get him to talk. Clem asked him about Lily's whereabouts, but he said that Lily will come back for him, and he also talked about war at the Delta. He told Clem to check his front pocket if she wishes to know the answers. Clem checked it and found a cigar. Abel said that he will tell her everything if she lets him smoke, so Clem agreed. But after smoking, he started to cough blood and he realized that he had suffered an internal injury which will lead to his death. He told Clem that he will tell her everything, but only if she promises to not let him turn after his death. Clem agreed to this. He said that his people have a boat which is docked few miles up west at an old fishing pier, and Clem's friends are on that boat. After hearing this, Clem killed him with a knife. Clem, Louis, AJ, Willie and Ten decided to go to the boat. After arriving there, they decided to scout the place first. After scouting, they decided to burn the hay in order to create a distraction. Clem mentioned that James can help in leading a huge group of walkers towards them too, to which everyone agreed. Then they found Minerva, whom they believed to be dead. Everyone was surprised to see her. She blamed Clem for the burning of Erickson, but Louis defended her. In the midst of all that, the raiders came looking for Minerva, so everyone hid except her. After they left, Minerva told Clem that their boat leaves for the Delta in 2 days, and that the only way for them to fight is to let them take their friends. Clem got angry and Minerva left. However, their plan remained the same. Clem and AJ left in order to find James and the rest went back. After finding James, Clem explained him all the plan, but James told Clem to wear one of the masks and to walk among walkers with him, to see them as people. Clem agreed and she somehow managed to do it. James got impressed and agreed to help her, and said to get ready by tomorrow night. Clem and AJ went back to the school. They decided to have a small party before the fight, so everyone started to prepare for it. Meanwhile, Willie proposed his plan to blow off the whole boat so that Lily and her people will never come back to the school. Clem approved of this plan. The next day, everyone including James gathered at the place. James led the walkers and Louis, Clem and AJ rubbed walker guts on themselves and went along with the herd towards the boat, while using some of them as shields, and they managed to sneak into the boat. Clem planted the bombs in the boiler. After that, they came across Minerva, who agreed to help them, and they succeeded in reuniting with their friends. As Clem was going in the cell to meet with Violet, Minerva knocked her out and told the rest to get in the cell. After waking up, Clem tried to open the door with AJ's knife, but she had to stop because Lily came there. She asked her about Abel. AJ answered that they killed him. Lily got angry and ordered Minerva to open the door as she pointed a gun at Clem. Lily asked Minerva to confirm the fact that she killed her own sister when she was trying to escape. Everyone was shocked after learning about this fact. Lily wanted Clem at her side. Clem said that she will do whatever she says, but only if they leave her friends. Lily ordered one of her people to drag Lewis out of the cell and to kill him despite Clem's request. But AJ jumped on that woman from behind and bit her ear. She knocked AJ away as blood started to flow from her ear. Lily ordered her to stop, and she then took AJ away for having a word with him. Clem somehow managed to get out from the cell and succeeded in freeing Lewis. But Minerva was on to her, but Clem fought and knocked her out while Lewis accidentally killed Dorian, which he deeply regretted. Asim and Omar were freed too, but Violet was furious at Clem and refused to go with her, so she went after AJ alone. The boiler was on. Clem saw Ten, who was also captured by Lily along with James. She threatened to kill James, but Ten somehow managed to steal a gun and threatened to kill Lily. But he hesitated and Lily disarmed him. Clem saw the opportunity and jumped on Lily. AJ stabbed her in the thigh as she strangled Clem. But that didn't have any effect on her. Clem kicked the knife which was stuck in her thigh, which caused a great deal of pain to her, and AJ picked up a gun and pointed it at Lily, who was begging him to spare her life. James, Ten and Clem told AJ to lower the gun and he agreed. But Lily got up and stabbed James in the back and killed him. Then the boiler blasted. The boat was on the verge of sinking, but Clem succeeded in finding an emergency boat and also rescued AJ. But they got separated, so Clem told AJ to go to the pier and that she will meet him there. But AJ refused to leave without her, so hence they both decided to leave together. They came across Lily, who was also leaving on a raft. She told Clem to part ways with her, but AJ insisted on killing her. But it was too late and Lily left, and the boat exploded. But Clem and AJ survived the blast and reunited with Lewis and Violet, who was hurt. She asked about Minerva, but the place was full of walkers. They also got reunited with Asim, Omar, Ruby and Willy. Minerva was also there. She was fighting off the walkers, but she got bit and she couldn't be saved. The group left except Clem and AJ, but Ten came and helped them to get out from there. While they were on their way to the school, Minerva, who was almost dead but still had her sense of self, came after them, and she wanted to take Ten with her, but Clem came forward and fought with her, but Minerva attacked her with an axe and Clem's leg got cut really bad. Minerva soon got mauled by the walkers. Ten rushed in order to save his sister, but Louis grabbed him and then AJ suddenly shot Ten right in the neck and he died. Louis was furious at AJ, but he said that Ten was gonna get him killed, so he had to do it. Then three of them left, but when they were on their way, they got separated with Louis and Clem got bit in the leg. But Clem still insisted on moving forward. They came across James's barn, but the place was surrounded by a herd of walkers. They successfully got inside, but Clem wasn't able to fight anymore, so AJ decided to barricade the doors on his own. But Clem realized that it was her time. She told AJ to leave and to live for her sake. AJ made sure that she never turned by chopping off her leg and continued to live at the Erickson after that with all the others and led a happy life forever.